So again, Chris Rogers, Senior Technology Evangelist at Zerto, and we're going to be discussing isolating and locking data. So within Zerto, there's two options, and we've kind of danced around the subject a little bit already. So we have public cloud, isolation, and mutability. I call it public cloud because that's where the majority or the vast majority of our customers who use this option use AWS or Azure for their mutability option. You could use on-premise like Scality, for instance, and use their object lock as well. So it's not just public cloud, but the vast majority of our customers are utilizing that. Fully mutable, isolated offsite data copies. And then we're bringing in a concept of the Zerto Cyber Resilience Vault. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting low on time, so I'm going to have to kind of whiz through this because you're going to get loads of information on the Cyber Vault, the Cyber Resilience Vault in a sec from Matt. And I think that's where loads of the questions and you guys are going to be really interested in. So I will skip through this a little bit quicker than I would normally do. So isolate and locking with public cloud. So we know that we're doing replication from site A to site B, as we saw in my lab a minute ago. And we've got that journal that we know we've got that data. And again, a question that we had a minute ago, how do you make sure that the attackers don't get hold of the journal? Well, they might, right? They've got the keys to the kingdom, like they might. So essentially, we take an immutable copy out of the journal once, twice, however many times a day you want to do that is completely down to you. Trigger it via API, however you want to run your job. Take the copy from the journal, store it in secondary storage. So AWS, S3, Azure Blobs, or S3 compatible storage. Put object lock on. And that's how we do it. We have a repo and essentially store that away. It's not in the journal, and it's not it's marked as immutable on a different format of storage as well. That repo is then available to then be remounted to clean infrastructure. So if they got hold of everything and decimated your environment, build something clean, go to an MSP or whatever it is, reattach your repo back in, and pull down the VMs from that point in time. Obviously, in this instance, your RPO is going to be longer than those seconds because we're only taking those copies on a periodic instance, right? But if you can't recover using the journal, this is a great option for you to have and a relatively low cost option. It comes bundled as part of the Zerto license. So all you've got to do is pay for your storage in a public cloud or if you own a Scality or a Cloudian or whatever it might be, then great, you can use that FOC without any problems. So that's essentially reattaching a copy, portable copy of that data marked as immutable. No one can touch it. No one can do it. And you can even disconnect the repo if you wanted to, so no one can get hold of it and do something weird to it. But again, stored in public cloud, it marked as immutable. So hopefully no one's going to get hold of that. And what we strongly advise customers is, don't use same logins. Don't use SSO to log into Azure and vCenter at the same time. If they get that, they get the key to that and that at the same time. Don't do that. Please have separate identity management systems or have an account that is, usable outside of that because people do things for convenience and sometimes convenience overcomes security, as we know. So essentially, taking those copies, putting them back in there. And away we go. But and sorry, one piece I wanted to mention is we're taking the copy from the journal. We're not taking it from production VMs. So we're still not impacting workloads when we're taking those copies of the data. We're not taking snapshots. We're taking it from the copy that we already own in our systems. And we're still representing the applications, the whole application stack. So those virtual protection groups still exist, and we still copy the whole virtual application stack up to the cloud, mark as immutable, and bring it back down again from the point in time. So we're still respecting that VPG config that we said earlier. So I'm going to do a soft. Go on, carry on.
Quick question on that. So you said that you have to take that snapshot every so often to the immutable side. Mm-hmm. How often is often in terms of without negatively affecting your performance? Because obviously that affects your look back window in the future.
It never impacts production workloads, and essentially what we're doing is taking a copy from the journal data that we already have, and then essentially copying that data out to public cloud. So it doesn't actually impact us as a replication. We carry on the replicas, and all we're doing is copying out of a data copy that we already have and putting it somewhere else essentially. So it doesn't impact the production workloads because we're not stopping them to pause them to snapshot them. We're taking it out of a copy that we already own in our environment on a secondary site or a local site. So it doesn't impact in any way. And you can do it as often as you like. Typically, we see customers do it once a day because they don't want immutable copies every 10 minutes because it's your last line of resort, like your last line of recovery. It's probably not going to be something you're going to do every 10 minutes. But you can, if you wanted to, you can trigger it via API and take them every 15 minutes if you wanted to, every hour. It's completely down to customer to decide. The more copies you have, the more you pay in public cloud for your storage. So I'm going to do a soft introduction to the Cyber Resilience Vault by Zerto. So the Cyber Resilience Vault is exactly what it says in the tin. It's a vault to keep your data in, the cyber resilience. So fully isolated, fully air-gapped, and always marked as immutable. And this is purpose-built for cyber recovery. This isn't kind of bolting on other bits and pieces to our existing platform that we had and saying, hey, you can use this. You obviously can use Zerto to help you recover from ransomware attacks on its own. We have loads of case studies that prove that. But these are ones for the most sophisticated attacks, large-scale attacks. Those are the things that we're prioritizing in this particular one. So what does the Cyber Resilience Vault look like? So it is all of this in the picture. So defense in depth. So journal-based recovery, as we mentioned previously before. This will become a bit clearer in Matt's session as well, how this kind of hangs together a bit more. We're using production-grade infrastructure. We're combining a data vault with a clean room in a single solution and building around the orchestration automation inside of the Zerto platform already. So all fully air-gapped, fully isolated, offline copies, immutable, tamper-proof data copies, with that real-time encryption detection that we saw earlier on a decentralized architecture based upon HP Electra storage, HP ProLine compute, Aruba networking, and Zerto for your recovery software. So that's kind of what it looks like as a holistic view, all of that bundled into the Cyber Resilience Vault. And then as a very basic architecture, the Cyber Resilience Vault is all of this. So you get a landing zone to land your data into, which contains vCenter and Zerto, the ProLine for compute, and HP Electra for your storage. We then have a vault zone, which is co-located next to the landing zone in a rack next to it, which has HP Electra, ProLine, and Aruba inside it as well. It also comes with the Zerto and vCenter as well, but that's kind of as a separate. We kind of copy it across, if you will. Don't need to purchase it a secondary time. And essentially, what we're doing is landing data using Zerto on the HP Electra array, and then using array-based replication to copy data inside of the vault. But then also when we're doing recovery, we're recovering Zerto and your infrastructure inside of the vault. So you can still utilize all your recovery automation, detection, all that kind of bit inside the vault as well. And Matt will go into more detail on this, but essentially that's what our vault looks like. And we're using production grade infrastructure for this. So it's not, a purpose-built backup appliance doing replication. It's not slow and low and deep capacity. This is all flash hardware with ProLine and Electra storage and compute. So that was isolate and lock. And I'm going to really run through test and recover because I want to make sure Matt has at least 30 minutes to cover his pieces. I promised him 45, so I'm already behind. So inside of Zerto, we then have the orchestration and automation layer. So very simply, in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see we have failover, restore, and move. So very simply, we can click failover. We choose the virtual machines or the application in this instance we're going to recover. We then decide which point in time we're going to recover to, and you can see here. This is an old video that I pulled back because I didn't want to do it. I probably haven't got time for a live demo to show you, unfortunately. But we've got 934 different points in time to recover to on this application here. So choose any of those ones that are 5 or 15 seconds apart, and we start our failover. And essentially, that is as simple as it gets. We then boot the virtual machines on the right storage, on the right networks with the right IPs, and we're going directly onto production-grade infrastructure. We're not mounting it onto an appliance or mounting onto secondary storage and having to vMotion or anything afterwards. We're mounting it directly into production-grade infrastructure. And that will be the same if you're going up to AWS or Azure. We're doing the conversion on the fly for you. So we're not having to rehydrate data. We're doing the conversion on the fly, building out brand new VMs, attaching data disks to them inside of those platforms for you as well. And then a bit on recovery, on testing. Testing is incredibly important. I'd imagine one of the most important things that we can do for cyber resilience is test those plans that we have in place, whether that's tabletop exercises, actual ones, but make sure we test. And Zerto has non-disruptive testing in an isolated environment, so we have no impact to production workloads when we're doing testing. So a customer here was using 3.5 days to test, normally over a weekend or a bank holiday, as we call it in the UK, a public holiday in the US, and taking the whole time to do that because they had to have systems down while they were doing it and they couldn't negotiate that. After Zerto, it took them less than 2 hours to test the whole environment. So a massive time saving just based on the automation, orchestration, and being non-disruptive as well. And then in the bottom right here, you can see 18,000 plus tests per month from Zerto customers with an average RTO of 3 minutes and 19 seconds. And that's what we're talking about all this scale. So 18,000 just tests of multiple hundreds or thousands of virtual machines. And on average, we're seeing a 3 minute, or just under 4 minutes an RTO across all those sites. So how does it work? We fail over virtual machines whilst production is still running in an isolated network environment. We then attach the disks to there. We create a scratch volume, which is the temporary volume. You can then go in and do whatever you need to do with those, do testing, do patch testing, whatever you want. Essentially, you have a massive sandbox environment to do whatever you want with. And then when you're finished, you press stop. We clean up after ourselves, and production has no idea what happened. And also, whilst we're doing that, we are replicating data as well. So even though we're doing a test, we're still maintaining that 5 to 10 second RPO across all of those virtual machines that are testing at the same time. And we can use this for other things, not just for DR testing or cyber resilience testing as well. So we've seen people use it for vulnerability scanning, for patch testing, for data forensics, fail over a copy into an isolated environment. Keep your VMs running, they're serving applications, everything. It's an exact replica of the virtual machine from 10 seconds ago. So run your scans, run your patch upgrades, whatever you want on there to prove them first without impacting your production workloads.